My name is Maryam, and I am 16 years old. I belong to the historic Shore Point area of Lahore, where the streets wind beneath ancient trees, casting shadows that form a landscape of their own. I stand about 5 feet 2 inches tall, with a hint of firmness in my figure, perhaps a trace left behind by my days of squash and exercise. My hair is thick and black, my eyes a dreamy shade of gray, and my face wears a soft, constant smile that reflects a quiet calm. People often say that when I walk by, time seems to pause for a moment, like a beautiful view that halts the world with its brilliance. But the world inside my home is very different from this beauty. My father works as a laborer one day and drives a taxi the next, carrying passengers across the city, his face now marked with wrinkles carved by years of struggle. My mother sews curtains for a small shop and sells second-hand clothes just to ensure we, her 3 children, have something to wear. My elder brothers usually dismiss my efforts. One of them often mocks, "Pretty enough for marriage, but what's the use of studying?" The other refuses to share household chores and constantly restricts me from stepping outside. Between the poverty of my parents and the preachings of my brothers, I made up my mind to burn like a small flame, one that, through hard work and persistence, might one day light the path to my dreams. When I was just 8 years old, my body began to change. My clothes started feeling tighter, and my school uniform's buttons pulled closer with every passing month. My mother enrolled me in school, and it felt like I had discovered a new world, but that world soon turned painful. Boys from my street would whistle as I passed by, sometimes even trying to pull my scarf. One day, as I stood outside my classroom, a boy grabbed the handle of my bicycle and tried to spin me around. I felt my heart pound with fear. That day, I tasted the bitterness of shame for the first time. Hiding my tears, I rushed inside and sank into my chair. Time went on. I moved through grades 5, 6, and eventually to 9th. But with every class, my seating moved further away from others, and whispers about me lingered behind. "That's the girl whose body changed before the rest." Once, a cousin mockingly said in the market, "You're growing up nicely, so when's the wedding?" I still remember how my heart skipped a beat. But I simply lowered my head and replied, "I still have to study." Eventually, I passed my matriculation exams and held my certificate with pride. But the silence at home spoke volumes. I folded my school uniform and carefully placed it in the wardrobe, making a silent promise to myself, this world of men's stares will neither bend me nor break me. When I raised the question of going to college, a wave of hope ran through me, but the faces at home turned dark. My eldest brother snapped, "This girl will stay at home." College? What nonsense. After the way your body has grown, imagine what boys will say. The other brother warned, "Don't wander around at this age. You'll lose your mind." My mother remained silent, walking into her room with a heavy heart. My father slammed the table and said, "We're barely managing our expenses. Studying is fine, but girls don't belong in colleges." My uncle jeered, "What will she do in a Lahore college? Who will keep her on track?" My aunts taunted at every step, "Have you planned your marriage after this degree?" All these accusations and insults echoed in my ears, but I didn't give up. I told myself, if you don't try, you'll never know whether you could have made it or not. I filled out the college admission form, and after days of pleading and persistence, my name was finally enrolled. The first day of college felt like stepping into a new world. My heart was filled with fear, my eyes with dreams, and my mind with questions. As I walked through the college gate in my uniform, it felt as though the world had paused. All eyes turned to me, some with curiosity, some with wonder, and some with shamelessness. I shrank under those stares. For the first time, I felt what it was like to be seen only through the lens of my body, my identity buried under assumptions. In the beginning, every moment in college was a trial. There were boys' crude remarks, mocking laughs, and pointless, probing questions, all of which began to break me from within. But slowly, I learned to hold myself together. I discovered that silence, at times, becomes the greatest strength. I started ignoring the noise, and step by step, I learned to walk confidently along the same paths that once frightened me. Then, a boy entered my life. He felt different from the others. He seemed to understand my silence, to sense the sorrow hidden behind my smile. He won my heart, with his words, his gentleness. Slowly, a sweet friendship turned into love. I thought my loneliness had finally ended. But a few weeks later, the truth emerged. He had only been passing time. His words, his kindness, all of it was a lie. He was already committed to someone else. My heart broke. I withdrew in silence. Then came another face, more serious, more polite. He respected my feelings, gave me time, made promises. Once again, I let myself believe. But soon, his real intentions surfaced. He wasn't in love, he just wanted to hear my story like a movie, to take my truth and turn it into a tale of thrill before moving on. Again, my trust was wounded. A third time, I tried to resist, to hold back. Yet another boy found a place in my life. This time, I kept my distance, stayed in control. But after a few months, even he turned out to be someone who saw me as nothing more than an experience. It felt like love was just a lie, a beautiful illusion far removed from reality. I made a promise to myself, no more. College came to an end. I held my degree in my hands, a symbol of success, but my heart was still empty. I returned home, silent, exhausted, battling myself. But this time, I made a decision, would not let my past bury me. I chose to rebuild myself. I prepared to move forward. My new destination was university, and I was ready to leave the past behind. Entering university felt like opening the door to a whole new life. On the first day, my steps trembled, there was a strange fear inside me. Dreams stood on one side, the bitterness of the past on the other. As I walked into my class, I saw mocking expressions on some boys' faces, as if every new girl was just another joke to them. Some scanned me with their eyes, others made me the subject of their jokes. I stayed silent, but inside, I kept breaking. This continued for a few days. But I did not let myself grow weak. I returned each day with more strength. I made books my friends, and God. Time passed, and I began to make a name for myself. Then one day, a boy confessed his love to me. I was startled. He first extended a hand of friendship, then gradually began making promises, compliments, and declarations. But a few days later, I saw him mocking me behind my back. It had all been a game. Another boy came along, he seemed more serious. He, too, tried to come closer. I thought, maybe this one is genuine. But within days, his words and behavior changed. One betrayal after another, until my heart became numb to love. Now, for me, education was everything. But even then, a group of boys tried to tarnish my character. They accused me falsely, spread rumors, slandered my name. I remained silent, because I knew that time always reveals the truth. Amidst all this, there was one boy who saw everything, heard everything, but always stayed silent. He never looked at me inappropriately, never said a word out of place. He kept his distance, but his eyes held respect. I never let him come close, but deep inside, I admired his silence, and the dignity in his gaze. The university years were tough, bitter, yet full of lessons. I protected my dignity, learned to trust myself, and never let go of my dreams. I didn't find love, but I learned to love myself. And maybe, that was the greatest victory of all. When I finally graduated, I felt a strange peace in my heart, as if years of burden had lifted. I had imagined that life would now become easier. I would find a job, stand on my own feet, and support my parents. But when I knocked on the doors of reality, disappointment greeted me from every side. I returned home, only to find the same atmosphere I had left behind years ago, brothers' taunts, aunts' gossip, and my parents' silent sadness. I tried to ignore it all and stepped into the world to chase my dreams and find a job. At my first interview, the questions were laced with inappropriate stares. One man told me, "You seem capable, but, here, the job comes with certain expectations." I stayed silent and walked out. At the next place, the salary offered was too low to even cover daily travel expenses. A third said, "You'll have to agree to our terms, sometimes stay late at night, sometimes entertain clients." I applied at 10 or 12 companies. Some said, "You don't look professional enough." Others commented, "You're beautiful, but don't seem very smart." And at some places, I was told, "Women here are more like decoration pieces, they can't work with dignity." Every word carried poison, and every look, lust. I returned empty-handed from each attempt. But I never let myself fall. With every closed door, I lit a new flame of courage in my heart. Still, the truth is, when dreams stumble again and again, they begin to crack your soul. All I wanted was to succeed with honor. But in this society, a woman's dignity and her ambition rarely survive together. Every step was a test, every turn an insult. But I wasn't defeated, because I knew some people trade their bodies, while others choose patience. And patience, I believe, is always rewarded by God. When every door shut in my face, I returned, weary, with shattered dreams, to the same house I once believed to be a place of comfort. But this time, everything had changed. My brother's words were sharp, my parents' eyes full of silent disappointment, and my relatives' taunts felt like arrows piercing straight into my soul. "What's the point of all your education? Respect still feels like a burden because of you." That line echoed over and over again, and with it, my silence grew deeper each day. Then one evening, my mother quietly said, "Miriam, there's a proposal. The boy is well educated and settled abroad. He has a good job. Please just say yes." I looked up and asked softly, "Does my opinion not matter?" In return, I got silence, and eyes that held a mother's helplessness. I gave in. And that marriage happened, one my heart was never truly ready for. On the day of the wedding, my eyes were damp. There was no joy, no sorrow, only a silence so loud, it screamed everything I couldn't say. The early days of marriage felt cold. My husband seemed emotionally distant, no warmth, no connection, just formal conversations limited to necessities. I tried, several times. I spoke, smiled, served him with care. But he remained a wall of silence. As time passed, I began to change myself. I softened my tone, tried to understand his interests, his work, his likes and dislikes. I tried to adopt his world. And maybe, just maybe, my consistency and kindness began to make a difference. Then one day, he said something that stayed with me. "Miriam, you are incredibly patient. Perhaps it's only a woman like you who could endure a man like me." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I hid them. Because there was already a storm within me that had never dried. Peace began to enter our lives. Perhaps this was the turning point, when broken pieces start to mend and distance begins to turn into closeness. After marriage, life slowly took a new direction. Each day brought a quiet joy. As expected, there were some initial challenges. But when we finally started walking side by side, everything began to feel easier. His attitude shifted, and he began to appreciate my understanding and patience. When he returned home exhausted from work, I always listened, spent time with him, and reminded him that life would bring challenges, but we had to face them together. Gradually, his love and support grew stronger. The gaps between us faded. We became each other's strength. In the little things, the shared smiles, caring gestures, and small moments of joy, we found a sense of calm. Together, we began to dream of the future, hand in hand, building a brighter path. There's so much happiness in our life now, it's hard to put into words. But all of it became possible only because we chose patience, kindness, and mutual respect. Along the way, I learned something vital, that in life, it is truth and love that bring the deepest happiness. So here is my message to anyone reading this. At every step in life, protect your dignity. Hold on to patience. Give love and respect the highest place in every relationship. Let life's bitter experiences become your teachers, and keep moving forward. Because the road to a successful and peaceful life always passes through truth, effort, and patience.